I thought a good idea to do before we move on to the next stage of your GCSE art and design development is to recap on how to develop your portraits. So as you can see in the first image here, I've got three development stages. The most important things to note are the lightness of touch on when you're drawing. One of the most common things that I find with students is when they begin to draw, no matter what it is they simply press too hard. So as you can see in the third picture, I got the pencil and it's quite sharp. So you should have a sharp pencil and press very lightly. When developing your portraits, start with the eyebrows, and I generally work down through the nose, onto the mouth, and then the chin. But at all times, I'm making very, very careful, soft, little tentative, seeking indications of where I might put my marks. And all the time, I'm looking at the proportions of all of the shapes. So what I tend to do is to work in little triangles. So I will look at where the corner of the eye is, to the corner of the ear, to the corner of the mouth, and check to see if that overall shape on my drawing corresponds to what I'm looking at. In this case, it's my own image in a mirror. Okay, it's very important to work from life, so get yourself a mirror, and the next stage is to get the lighting right. So a good way of working on that is to sit near a window so you've got a good cast of light from one direction. If you haven't got the benefit of that, then maybe use something like a lamp. If it's at night, you can shine a light onto, or even during the day, and you'll get a much easier light and dark area, especially when you're working in tone. So self-portraits are really good for developing that rigor, as we call it, so it's accuracy and be able to do it. Now, do not think that you're going to get a photographic representation of yourself. You won't, and you'll see at the end of the video. I'll show another drawing which I did a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, and you'll see they're very different. They both kind of look like me, but they're not of me. They're representations of me, and that will change every single time you do a self-portrait. So just get used to that and look at what you've done in terms of whether or not it's a good drawing. Does it look like a good drawing of a person? And then the next two images, you can see I've gradually built up the detail. And the important thing about this again is that I've kept the pressure really light, so that on the second picture you can see a detail close up on the cheek area where I've just narrowed down the shape of the cheekbone to represent what I really look like, because in the first one I looked a bit fat, and you only got to make a slight error of where you place those lines to completely change the way in which we look. So that area of just not pressing too hard allows me just to shave that area off. I very rarely use a rubber because I work very lightly, and that allows you to do it that way. So the next stage is to add the tone, and you can see in the first image where I've almost literally divided the face up into two, including the neck and the hair and the clothing. And sitting by a window or a strong light source allows you to do that. You can see where the lights and darks are. So the way to start with it is to distinctly divide the dark area or the dark side into the light side. And don't go too heavy because you're just establishing the midtones at this stage. Once I've done that, and the subsequent drawings, you can see how I've built up the slightly darker tones, but all the time going carefully. So I divide it into half, and then go for the darker bits, but not going too heavy, and gradually build up those subtle changes from light to dark. Now, at this stage, it's important to emphasize that if you want something to be light or appear to be really bright, leave it alone. Do not add any tone to that area. It's the darker areas that make the dark light areas look brighter. So once I've done that, it's simply a case of establishing the darker areas, adding detail into it, and then once that's done, it's finished. In this sequence here, you can see where I've put it next to a portrait which I did before, where I think I probably look a lot younger, and it's a slightly different approach. It will change every single time you do a self-portrait. You will get a different result. And as I said at the beginning of the video, you have to judge it not on whether it's a photographic reference of you or reality likeness, but as to whether or not it's a good drawing, whether it looks like a good drawing of a person. And in the final image here, you can see where I've put these two things side by side as part of my sketchbook work. And once you've done a few of these, you will build up a good body of work which will get you good grades. So I would encourage you to do more of these self-portraits. They will get you grades. It's something you can simply do by sitting in front of a mirror. Have a sharp pencil, take you about 20 minutes. You can time yourself to do things, and you will quickly build up a good body of work. So let's get to it.